What is up, guys? It is the Blue Bloods here. We've been on an interview roll, man. We've had almost, I think, over 14 days or something like that straight of different interviews, man. So, shout out to all those players. Shout out to y'all for making this possible as well. So, make sure to go check out all the interviews, no matter if it's a school you support, a player you know, man. Get to know some of these FCS athletes before this next season starts, man. But we had to get back on the roll of normal episodes. And I'm going to be in Mobile this weekend covering the HBCU Combine in person, man. So I'm going to try to get some interviews from some players. We're not allowed to take film of some of the drills, but we're allowed to take pictures, man. So I invested in like the new GoPro and everything, man. So we should have some fire pictures for you guys from this weekend in Mobile. Plus, I'll be down in Mobile again for the Senior Bowl. So I'm going to have some great content coming from there. Of course, Jatari Carter from Southern is going to be at the Senior Bowl. I'm going to try to get a one-on-one with him, kind of highlight how he's doing throughout the week, man, because I know you guys are going to be really, really wanting that content. But I figured with the HBCU Combine coming up tomorrow, there would be no better time than to preview some of the players to watch, the players with the most approved, the players I'm most excited to see, and just kind of give y'all a feel of what people are going to be looking forward to down in Mobile. So to kick it off, man, the HBCU Combine tomorrow morning. I'm gonna try to get y'all all the measurables, all the stats posted on the YouTube, and then I'm also gonna probably try to go live tomorrow right after the combine's over and answer some of y'all's questions, let y'all know how some of y'all's favorite players look, and give y'all all the insider information I can, man. But thank y'all so much for making this channel what it is, because without y'all, none of this on the Blue Bloods would be possible. But to kind of get to some of these players that I'm excited to see, that I know scouts are excited to see, and that have a lot to prove. We're going to kick it off with, I know a lot of people know this kid, are excited. Keith Corbin, wide receiver from Jackson State, man. This year, 69 catches, 921 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. Of course, over 160 catches in his career, over 2,300 yards, 20 touchdowns, was a second team all SWAC selection this season. And he came in from Houston and he really carved out a role, especially later in the season with Malachi Wadman in a very deep wide receiving room. You had Wadman, you had Josh Lanier, you had Trevante Rucker, you had Warren Newman, you had a lot of guys that really were getting a lot of targets. And then on top of that, you had what was that electric offense at times this season. So he finished as the leading wide receiver for Jackson State, guys, with almost 400 yards ahead of the second next closest guy. So Corbin really, really showed why I thought in the preseason, I told you guys, I thought Corbin had some of the highest ceilings in terms of wide receivers that we're going to see the field. I'm excited for Quay Davis, what Malachi can do moving forward. But Corbin coming in was by far the most proven wide receiver in that wide receiving room, in my opinion. And for me, this combine is going to be extremely important for Corbin because this is an extremely deep wide receiving class. Last year's, of course, very top heavy with a lot of wide receivers going early, but I feel like with this draft, it's much deeper. There's probably 15, 20 guys minimum that are probably going to go off the board that I'm very excited about. You got Traylon Burks up there. You have a lot of guys who I think are overlooked, like a Drake London, but Corbin is right on that borderline of undrafted free agent and a late round pick. So this combine could be a great chance to get his name out there, along with showing more, I guess, intricate parts of his game at this scouting combine. So the keys for Corbin for me and why this is important: one, his strength is route running. So you have to show off the route running this weekend. You got to show your knowledge of the game, where to sit in zone, how to run certain routes against man coverage. You have to show your footwork. You have to show the intricacies of your game. And I think that's where Corbin's really going to excel, because I don't know if his testing numbers are going to explode in terms of high end speed, agility, or anything like that. And then also ball skills. We saw at times this year he was very good at going up and getting the ball, great with his body control, and I really want him to excel in that this weekend at the HBCU Combine. And then also the key and one of the bigger questions is, what is the testing numbers going to show? What are they going to be? What is his 40 time going to be? What is his shuttle? What's his explosiveness? Speed, agility, and explosiveness are probably the biggest question marks for him, because I don't think he's just going to be like an explosive type guy like a Malachi Wadman, or a very, very fast guy, kind of like a Josh Lanier or like a Jalen Waddle was last year. He's probably going to be more mid tier there, but his route running and ball skills, I think, is something that could really make him shine. So he has to put those on full display this upcoming weekend. And so Keith Corbin is going to be a guy I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing tomorrow down here in Mobile. Now, the other name, and this is an offensive lineman, I've been talking to some people that have really been turning some heads, and he's not one that a lot of people have been talking about, and that's Keenan Forbes for Florida A&M or FAMU. He's been one of the more overlooked prospects this draft cycle, and for me, I think it's a name you possibly could hear in a day 2 or day 3 spot, and could be the next SWAC offensive lineman to get his shot due to his size and production down in Tallahassee. A first team All SWAC selection, a third team All FCS selection this year, was credited with 92 knockdowns, only allowed one sack all season long, paved the way for Bishop Bonnet in one of those explosive rushing attacks. And this entire offensive line led the SWAC with only 14 sacks allowed this season. So high level production for Forbes in that Florida A&M offensive line. So his strengths would just pop off immediately in terms of offensive line, and it's the size and power. He is a bully, and he's not going to get pushed off his spot. He's going to be able to lean on you. If he gets his hands on you, it's going to be a problem, especially for undersized defensive linemen. But a lot of scouts, from what I've been reading, what I've heard, is that they want to show off his athleticism. They want to see, can that pure size and strength match up with his footwork and agility? Can that be added to his frame? Can that be another part of his game that he excels at? That's the big question with Forbes. And that's what this combine is going to be a great chance to prove. He's going to be able to show off his strength and power, but scouts are going to want to see what his footwork is like. And that's going to be the number one key for me, is show off your footwork. Technique as an offensive lineman is so important to show off in these combine drills and things like that. So if Forbes can do that and show off his footwork, show off his technique, that's going to really make a lot of scouts drool over this kid, and could really improve his draft stock moving forward. The other thing, agility, man. You have to show you can move laterally. You got to do it with some quickness, with some hurry up. And if you can add that with his power and strength, what he already has, that could be a major key in unlocking his full draft potential moving forward coming out of FAMU. So those are the top two prospects I'm looking for. So two underrated guys, in my opinion, that I'm very excited to see. We'll start out with a running back that had a lot of people excited, Ezra Gray, going to be down there from Alabama State at the running back spot this year. Really kind of took a step back. 400 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 76 yards receiving, 2 receiving touchdowns, but over 230 return yards. But going back to that spring film, the spring 2021 season is really what his draft stock is going to be based on. He was a first team All SWAC selection, over 430 on the ground, 3 touchdowns, over 200 kick return yards. He is going to have a lot to prove. The limited workload this season due to injuries and what happened to be a crowded backfield with Merritt back there as well, that's going to have a lot of NFL teams asking, what are we going to get out of Ezra Gray if we draft him? And this weekend, he is going to have to prove that he can be that back. And I don't think, due to his size, he can be an every down back. But can he be the second, third option in an NFL backfield? I absolutely believe he can. And that's what this weekend is ultimately going to do for Ezra Gray. So he's got to show the explosiveness, the vision, the athleticism that he showed in the spring 2021 season. He dominated that season, but I know a lot of scouts have to be skeptical about the drop in production. I thought the Auburn game this year was going to be a great telltale sign of where his draft stock was, but he was banged up and missed that Auburn game. So for me, what film is going to be his best? That Jackson State film from the spring is going to be huge, but he doesn't have that it factor game, in my opinion, from this season to really lean on. I believe it was the Bethune Cookman game. He played pretty well. that Jackson State film is really going to be key for his draft stock. So the keys for this weekend for me, speed, acceleration, agility have to pop. There were times where he exploded on film, like that Jackson State film, but there were other games where he just couldn't seem to find any space. But there's always room for drafting an athletic, versatile running back, and that's something that a lot of NFL teams cannot pass up. So if he's able to explode on those testing numbers, it could really go a long way in getting him into those late rounds for a team to pick up some depth in a running back room. And then the other thing, everyone knows how important receiving acumen is for a running back now. So Ezra Gray has to show that off in the combine. And when they go through their passing drills and things like that, make sure you catch the ball, make sure you show your technique, your footwork, your ability to get out of the backfield and make some plays. That's where you're going to show your value. That's how you see some of these younger running backs seeing the field early in their career, like a Khalil Herbert for the Chicago Bears, who really made an impact this season. Like you saw Javonte Williams and backs like that, of Michael Carter. That's what you're going to have to do. You know, you're not the biggest, you're a little bit undersized. You have to show that you have value in the receiving aspect of your game. And in today's NFL, teams want dynamic running backs out of the backfield. So that's something Gray's got to do. And also, this was a conversation around Devontae Smith last year, is do the measurables match up to what's on paper? Right now, he's listed at 5'7", 174. Do they add up? If he's any smaller than that, it's really going to take a toll on his draft stock. So 5'7", 174 or above is what you're going to have to be hoping for Ezra Gray, because any smaller, that draft stock's really probably going to take a hit due to the lack of production this year. So Ezra Gray has a lot riding on the line this weekend down in Mobile. And the final name, Antoine Collier, Florida A&M safety or defensive back. This year, 48 tackles, 4 for loss, 1 forced fumble, and a pick. He was a multi-year starter at UCF. He transferred to Florida A&M, was a first-team All-AAC selection in 2019, was a key piece to that undefeated UCF team in 2018 that beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl and claimed a national title. But looking back, man, Collier was a very hyped transfer, one of the highest hyped transfers into the SWAC last season, was an intricate part to this FAMU defense and played next to Marquise Bell, who's tearing it up at his postseason game. His draft stock's flying up. But you look back at the season, he came off to a very, very slow start, but it culminated in the FCS playoff game against Southeastern Louisiana, which really showcased Collier's potential. That tape really improved his draft stock, put him on a lot of radars. 9 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and interception, was all over the field for the Rattlers in the biggest game of the season. They ended up losing that game, but that production was there, and that production is there stretching back to UCF. And the measurables are there as well. If the testing numbers can be there this weekend, this may be one of the more intriguing SWAC prospects in the 2022 NFL draft. And him and Marquise Bell could find themselves drafted and give FAMU 2 defensive backs go off the board this April. But the keys for Collier this weekend, man, I think you just got to show off your technique, man. Show the footwork, show your hips, show your hip work, show your explosiveness. Just show what type of athlete you are on the back end, because I think the measurables are going to be there. Show off your technique and show that you can be that guy who can be a late round pick. It could be an immediate contributor, whether it be on a practice squad, whether it be as just depth in a defensive secondary, because there's a lot of NFL teams who need back end pieces, especially with some of the quarterbacks flying around the NFL. They're running a lot more 6 defensive back sets. Maybe Antoine Collier can be that guy to be drafted and get one of those last roster spots on an NFL squad. And then also, what are your testing numbers going to be like? Speed and athleticism are going to be huge for Antoine Collier this weekend, but I do think he's a dark horse prospect that could really come away impressing a lot of people at the combine. And of course, there's a lot of great athletes there. I mean, Zafir Kelly from South Carolina State is coming. Jermaine Martin out of North Carolina A&T will be there. There's a lot of other prospects with things to prove, but I wanted to come on here, give a brief preview of the HBCU Combine and some of the prospects I think had a lot to prove and or could mostly improve their stock this weekend with a great showing. So these are my top four. There's some honorable mentions there as well. I think Felix Harper being there is going to be interesting. Akil Glass has a lot to prove as well. There's going to be a lot of athletes that I think are going to have big weekends in Mobile. And also, I said this on BJ Jones Spaces last night for the HBCU Twitter space, but the Senior Bowl has a lot of opt outs. A lot. Sometimes people come with injuries that they didn't know about, get second opinions. So I would not be surprised if some of these HBCU Combine players get asked to stick around in Mobile for a few more days just to be replacements. So y'all stay tuned to Twitter and this channel, man. Anyone gets added to the roster, I will let y'all know, and I will try to cover them as best I can as I'm down in Mobile covering the Senior Bowl and the HBCU Combine, man. So stay tuned for all that stuff, man. But guys, thank y'all so much for y'all support, man. This is just a brief preview of the combine. Stay tuned this weekend for more content and stay tuned for the live stream after the HBCU combine tomorrow, man. And of course, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button on the video and comment some of the questions you have for some of the people at the combine. If I can get with them, I will ask. And what are your thoughts on the combine? Who has the most to prove? Who has the most to lose? And what are you looking forward to seeing? And what do you think about the HBCU combine as a whole, man? Comment that below. Stay interactive, man. But guys, until tomorrow, this weekend, I will be back. But until next time, guys, the Blue Bloods are out.